February is shaking everything up. February is eclipse season. February is Mercury retrograde season. February is Saturn and Neptune come into a conjunction in the sign of Aries season. It's all going down in the month of February, but what collective timeline and what individual timeline are we headed in? So what I'm going to do in this video is share with you your horoscope for all the 12 zodiac signs, and I'm going to break down what the eclipse means for you, what Mercury retrograde means for you, and what this Saturn and Neptune conjunction means for you. We also have Uranus going direct. It's currently in retrograde in the sign of Taurus, but it's moving forward and it's going to be entering Gemini. So we've got a lot to discuss, and I'll leave all the timestamps down below. You can watch for your sun and moon, but these horoscopes are intended for the rising. So let's get into it. Hey Aries rising, welcome to your February 2026 horoscope. February is one of those months where there is a lot going on. It's retrograde season, it's eclipse season, and we also have Saturn and Neptune coming into conjunction in your sign. So it's going to be a very important month. There may be many shifts and changes happening. I want to start off with February the 1st, where we have a full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. This full moon in Leo is happening in your 5th and 11th house axis. The sun will be in the 11th house in Aquarius, of friendships, goals, networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. And the moon, which is your emotions, sensitivities, and sentiment and attachments, will be in your 5th house. The 5th house is a house of joy, happiness, pleasure, romance, dating, as well as creativity and self-expression. Now, both the 11th and 5th house are super important this year because the eclipses will occur in both of these areas of life. Now, we start off February with a full moon in Leo, which means there could be some type of release that occurs, an energetic release, something closing, cycle, a chapter coming to an end regarding both the 11th and the 5th house. Or there could be some sort of transformation or change. And this could be kind of like the beginning stages of this eclipse cycle that is going to be activating the 11th and 5th house axis throughout the year. This could have to do overall with friends, acquaintances, social networks, and your hopes and wishes for the future, as well as 5th house matters, as I just shared. So keep your eyes out for February the 1st, because this is going to give you like a bit of a teaser or a sneak peek as well of the experiences or themes you're going to be going through. So it's a very important date. Mark it up in your calendar. Now, this could also be a time where you want to express yourself, like you need to release a creative version of yourself. You need to release a part of you, your creativity, or you need to what you want more fun, you want to experience more joy, and emotionally you're feeling that. This could be impacting a relationship and romance and dating. Maybe you need more emotional sentiment, or perhaps you need more romance, but you need to let and release this energy out. So it may be also a very emotionally dramatic time as well, because the full moon is in Leo. Now, since I'm talking about the 11th and 5th house axis, let's talk about the solar eclipse, which is happening on February the 17th in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees in your 11th house. So the 11th house is, like I said, friends, groups, social networks, hopes and wishes for the future. This is a networking area. This is the area, it's like when you know the right people, they could really support you in your hopes and wishes for the future. Sometimes in life, it's all about who you know. Now, because we're going to have the sun, the moon, Mars, and Pluto all in the 11th house, there's a lot of intense focus. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of drive, a lot of energy, a lot of momentum, stamina, as well as a lot of room for growth and transformation happening in the 11th house. This is a seeding point. This is, again, another teaser, another taste of what we can expect throughout the year. Now, this is a bit of a minor eclipse in the sense of the nodes are still in the Virgo and Pisces axis. They're not going to move into the Leo and Aquarius axis until summer. But there may be a new beginning, a new start, a new person, new friendship, new acquaintance that enters your life, or perhaps you enter a new group, a new social circle, a new social dynamic, or even a new beginning in terms of your hopes and wishes for the future. So it could be a very special time. So again, mark your calendars, because this is a very activating time. And if you have any planets in either Aquarius or even Leo at 28 degrees or close by, this may be very important for you. February the 3rd, Uranus goes direct in Taurus. This will be impacting your 2nd house of finances, resources, and self-worth and abundance. Uranus has been in your 2nd house for quite a few years, but it's just a few more lessons to integrate and really understand what this transit has meant, and then this energy is going to move forward. Okay, so we're right at the end of this transit. Just hold on, because there's still a few little lessons to integrate, and we're ready to move on. Now let's get into the Mercury retrograde energy. So February the 6th, Mercury, the planet of communication and travel, enters watery Pisces. This will be impacting your 12th house. Now, not only is Mercury the planet of communication entering the 12th house, you can have Venus, a planet of love, that enters the 12th house on February the 10th, and the Sun enters Pisces on February the 18th. So, there's a lot of focus, a lot of energy in your 12th house. And the 12th house is a very interesting area of life because it's so convoluted. On one hand, it can rule over your sensitivities, your dreams, psychic energy, intuition, especially in Pisces. It can rule over the past, karma. It's also the non-physical area of life, your connection with divine, universe. And it seems like things from the past may come up that you have to navigate through this time. It may be a very emotionally moving time or a very spiritual time. There may be some mystery involved, things not seeming clear, but as you go forward in this journey, especially when we get into the retrograde, I mean, Mercury goes retrograde on February the 26th, and yeah, it's going to kick off and things may not be clear, but that's part of the process. Part of the process is to reassess, to reevaluate, to restructure, come into some deep, strong epiphanies and realizations, and then that clarity starts to come in. Part of the Mercury retrograde journey. So it's going to be a very spiritual time for you, perhaps even a emotional time, a time where you may be learning more about your intuition and dreams guiding you. But be careful, because the 12th house and the Pisces energy, sometimes because of the lack of clarity and the blur between reality and dreams, or fact and fiction, it can be very difficult to tell. So you need to be very in alignment and very much self-aware and attuned to everything that is going on within you and outwards. But some old cycles are coming up for you during this time. Sometimes it's difficult to pinpoint what those cycles are because the 12th house, like I said, is so convoluted. It can have an element of mystery to it, but they're karmic cycles coming up where the energy is ready to be released, but it needs to be worked on in order for that to be cleared away. It could have to do with love and relationships, because Venus will also join the 12th house and the Sun is amplifying its light there. So life path, purpose, love, relationships, communication, travel, your spiritual journey, intuition, dreams, creativity, emotions, past karmic cycles, they're all intertwined throughout this journey. Now let's move on to the big one. Saturn enters your sign again on February the 13th. You already got Neptune here. So Saturn, Neptune entering your first house. What's a first house? A first house is all about you. It's all about you, your identity, your life force, life path, life direction. And Saturn and Neptune are very opposite energies, yet they're coming together on February the 20th in a conjunction. Saturn is a disciplinary. It's all about reality. It's all about structure. It's about hard work and moving at a very realistic pace, and it gives you reality checks. But then you've got Neptune, which is a complete opposite. Neptune is all about the imagination, inspiration, what inspires it in the moment. It's about fantasy. Sometimes illusion and deceit can be involved here, and it has no limitations or boundaries. So this could be quite a rude awakening. You may be presented with the decisions or choices you have made in the past and the consequences of them, where things again may not be clear at the beginning, but then Saturn coming together with Neptune, it's a point of really activating and really awakening to truth, to the reality of everything. This may be a time where you're in a very realistic state of mind, and how you approach life and how you feel about yourself, it's changing, but it's almost like this level of maturity is activating within you through these life lessons that Saturn will be teaching you about yourself, about the choices you've made in life, and the direction you're headed towards. So it's a time where you're really going to lay out the foundation of your life and where you're headed, and you may find that you are changing in how you think, how you speak, how you navigate through life, your mannerisms, and there may be a lot of responsibilities that have to be dealt with during this time, and you're just evolving and growing into the most mature version of yourself, and you're putting in those boundaries, and you're learning about your limitations. And this is a time where you will very much concentrate and pour all your energy into really evolving. So it's a big month, February. You're one of the main characters, especially with a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. We've got a solar eclipse and Mercury retrograde, and I'm wishing you all the best this month, Aries. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Taurus rising, welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026. So, February 2026 is a month that is really going to be pivotal. It's going to be pivotal for quite a few reasons. We've got Mercury retrograde happening, it's eclipse season in a new sign, and we have the big one. Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction. So, you may find yourself going through a lot of shifts, a lot of changes in life, especially if these energies are directly impacting you. And of course, that varies from chart to chart. So, in this video, I'm going to go through all the major events of February 2026 and how they may impact your zodiac. Let's kick off with the eclipse energy. Now, on February the 1st, we've got a full moon in Leo. Now, this is just your standard full moon. However, this is linked to the eclipse. And the reason why it's linked to the eclipse is because this full moon occurs in your 10th and 4th house axis. So the moon, the emotionality, the sensitivities will be in your 4th house of home, family, security, sense of belonging, but the sun will be in the 10th house of career, goals, and ambitions. And the reason why this is linking to the eclipse is because the eclipses throughout this year that are occurring in the Leo and Aquarius axis will be activating these two areas of life. And also, the eclipse we have in February is going to happen in your 10th house. So it seems like when you jump into February the 1st, these energies are activating. There's some seeding points also, and there may be a little sneak peek teaser taste of what's to come when you get into the eclipse that occurs on February the 17th. Now, full moons typically bring some sort of ending, closure, chapter, cycle coming to a close, or a transformation of some sort, because a full moon energy is at its highest point, at its most intense point, and it's ready to shift, change into something new. And you may find a lot of intensity or tension or a lot of concentration in your 10th and 4th house. So, home, family dynamics, personal life, security, as well as career goals and ambitions. It seems like these two areas of life need to merge and have some sort of harmony. Emotionally, you are focused on your 4th house. That's where it seems like your emotions and sensitivities are triggered. But in terms of the sun's energy, where your vitality, your momentum, your stamina, where a lot of the spotlight is at, is career goals and ambitions. And it may just be a matter of, you're not having a lot of time for home and family. So emotionally, you're not able to nurture and fulfill that area of life. But there's a lot of opportunity coming through regarding 10th house. And then that's where you got to find the balance. I think a lot of people in life go through that. But it seems for you during this time, it's more emotional, it's more emotionally moving, and there's a lot of sentiment and attachment here. But this is going to bring up some sort of change, or at least it's going to show you where change is required. And this may be a time also where whatever is going on during this full moon in Leo, it continues when we reach the solar eclipse in Aquarius. So let's talk about that. So February the 17th, we got a solar eclipse in Aquarius. This eclipse is taking place at 28 degrees. Now, it's a minor eclipse in the sense of the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis. They're not fully moving until summer. So this eclipse is going to be occurring in your 10th house. Both the sun and the moon will be in the 10th house. That's where there's going to be a lot of concentration and a lot of focus. So career, goals, and ambitions. New moons and even solar eclipses, they do bring some sort of beginning, a new shift, a new change. This could be a seeding point as well, where the seeds are sowed. and you will see the transformation throughout this year and the year to come, because the solar eclipse energy is going to continue on next year as well. So that has to do with career goals and ambitions. And if that's the area of life that you've been super focused on, and it's been just a focal point in your life, expect growth here, expect shifts and changes and opportunities. And, with the eclipse, it doesn't just impact one area of life. It can sometimes have a ripple effect where it can impact all areas of life. So, for example, when you're working too hard or you're too focused on career goals and ambitions, sometimes your social life is not that, focused on. However, it's funny that I say that, because in February, there is a lot of energy there for you in your friend group and your social life, but we'll get into that. But just in general, when you are focusing on one area of life, other areas can be impacted. For you, what it's showing is there's some imbalance with career goals, ambitions, and home and family life, especially when we get into the first day of February and we've got a full moon in Leo. But solar eclipses can impact other areas of life as well. Typically, they will impact just your overall life direction and some of the key parts of your life, like relationships as well, home and family, career goals and ambitions. So it's not just that one area is going to be impacted. You can just go through a whole life shift and change. So expect that during the solar eclipse in Aquarius. And that full moon in Leo we're having on February the 1st is going to occur at 13 degrees. So if you have any planets at either 13 degrees or 28 degrees, especially in Aquarius or Leo, or even Taurus and Scorpio, this will be more profound for you. Let's move on to Uranus. So Uranus has been in your sign for quite some time, for many years, and it's been changing you. It's been perhaps bringing a lot of surprises, changes, unpredictability, and recently moved back into Taurus and went retrograde. And that energy may be very frustrating for a lot of you guys, because it's not something that you haven't already gone through, but it's kind of like taking you back to the past and still bringing more shifts and changes. And sometimes Uranus, it can feel like your world is upside down, but it's pushing you. It's really pushing you. Now, Uranus does go direct on February the 3rd, where it will then start to move in a forward direction, eventually moving out of your sign. So take it all in. There is something you want to change in your life. Uranus can actually be that activator. So it's just the last final lessons to integrate and learn from, and then this energy shall pass. Now let's get into your 11th house. Friends, groups, social networks, hopes and wishes for the future, because this is a highly energized area of life for you this month. Now, February the 6th, we've got Mercury, the planet of communication, entering Pisces, which means there'll be a lot of communication, a lot of socializing. However, because we've got a Mercury retrograde happening at the end of the month, February the 26th, it seems like there's a lot of back and forth in this area of life, and this could have to do with people from the past, people that you need to clear things with. There could be some confusion or lack of clarity that is involved, and through this Mercury retrograde process and journey, you start to understand more of what you're going through and what you need to do. But it seems like with people that you are friends with, or you socialize with, that you're acquainted with, or if you're involved in any type of group or society, or even when it comes to hopes and wishes for the future, there's a lot of reassessing, reevaluating, and perhaps there's like a friendship restructure going on here. And it's probably also going to make you reflect and reassess and re-strategize in terms of your hopes and wishes for the future. But there's a lot of emotion involved here, and there's a lot of sentiment because it's in Pisces. Now, the standard Mercury retrograde rules apply, but for you, it's impacting your social circle. So take a look at your social life, like what's currently going on, or perhaps everything's smooth, but when Mercury goes into retrograde motion, perhaps some friend from the past comes back up and you're having to make decisions like, okay, do we reconcile, or, did this friendship come to an end for a reason? And like I said, there's emotion involved here. There's the past involved here. There's attachment involved here. So there's some decisions that you're going to have to make. But in terms of like your hopes and wishes for the future, great to restructure your creativity and your vision as well. Now, There's a lot of energy also getting activated due to Venus, a planet of love, entering Pisces on February the 10th in your 11th house. So love, relationships, and romance can be involved here, as well as creativity. And then you've got the Sun entering Pisces on February the 18th. So that's really making this area of life the focal point for you in February, as well as, the 10th and 4th house. But the 11th house is also an area of life that you'll find that during February, you're spending a lot of energy there. Now let's get into the big one. Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction on February the 20th. Now, Saturn and Neptune are opposite energies. Saturn is a disciplinary, Saturn is all about rules, regulation, order, commitment, hard work, reality. And then you got Neptune, that's a complete opposite. Neptune's about fantasy, imagination, sometimes illusions, and it can be involved in a lot of deceit because it just romanticizes everything and it can lack boundaries. So when they come together, it's quite an awkward meeting in the sense of Neptune is in its bubble. And here comes Saturn, and Saturn's like, all right, time to get rid of these rose-tinted glasses, time to get in touch with reality. And because Neptune lacks boundaries, it can be quite a rude awakening. It could be quite difficult to comprehend at first. There could be disappointment involved. But Saturn is like, hurry up. Well, even though Saturn has a slow process, Saturn's like, no more. No more living in a bubble. No more romanticizing or idolizing anything or anyone. And it's time to get really super strong and structured with your boundaries and get in touch with what's really going on. Now, because it's happening in your 12th house, this is interesting because the 12th house is a very convoluted area of life. It can rule many different things. It can rule the past cycles, past karma. Can get even deeper and get into past lives. And then on the other hand, it can rule over, it's the area of life that is more secluded and isolated. So you may be going through your own internal process during this time and reflecting and looking at past choices, past decisions, past life experiences, and perhaps reminiscing, but there's some disappointment involved, or it's almost like you kind of hold yourself responsible for not having enough limitations or not having enough boundaries, or just being a little too naive. This may be a process you go through, and I want you to, I know it's difficult to say because when you're in that process, it's not as easy, but don't give yourself such a hard time through this process or this journey. It's an awakening time, and a lot will come into perspective and a lot will be revealed. And then during that process, don't, yes, you are accountable, but it's part of life. Part of life is, there's ups and downs, and this is an awakening. This is an awakening. Our whole life is an awakening. There's stages to our awakening. And if you come to some strong realizations of, what the past has meant for you and what certain life lessons and cycles have meant for you and the role you played in them, it's part of the process. So be easy on yourself. So it seems like you're really going to be navigating the past and going over some past karmic cycles, okay? But it's also a very enlightening and awakening time. Taurus rising, wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Gem Rising, welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026. It's a pivotal month in astrology, and it's highly anticipated because there is so much going on. Mercury retrograde season, it's eclipse season, and the big one, Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction. So let's start off with the first day of February, February the 1st. We got a full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. This full moon in Leo is activating your third and ninth axis. So these are the learning, the communication, the travel axis. So you'll have the moon where your attachment, where your sentiment and emotions will be add. So the third house is your learning process, how you process information, your mind, your thoughts, ideas, and like your daily environments and where you travel on a daily basis. And then you got the sun, which is shining its light onto your ninth house. So the ninth house is where you find your philosophies. This is where your higher mind is. This is also traveling to foreign places. This could also rule over education. And with the full moon here, well, activating both the third and ninth house, it's connected to the eclipse as well. So these are going to be very important areas of life for you this year and also next year. This is linked to the eclipse we're having on February the 17th, because the solar eclipse is taking place in the sign of Aquarius at 28 degrees. So where you'll find the moon is in the third house, it's also still connected to the ninth house, because the sun will be triggering the ninth house, and that's where the eclipse will take place on February the 17th. So whatever occurs during this time, straight off in February, the first day of February, or even a few days before, this energy is going to continue, and it's going to be a highlight throughout February and throughout this year and next year. So it seems like you're probably moving around a lot, or there's a lot of travel in place, or you're planning to travel a lot, or there's a lot of plans involving like communication or education. That has a lot to do with also like just your ideas and how you're thinking, your thought process. And you'd be surprised that the third and ninth house can also, from more of an esoteric spiritual point of view, it can also show us awakening and activating the higher mind, and also bringing forth a lot of divine inspiration and ideas. So these two areas will be very important. There may be some shift or change in travel plans, or perhaps just how you're thinking and how you're communicating may be very emotional. Because it's in Leo, it can be emotionally dramatic, but there's some important conversations that you need to have, because there's been certain things brewing up. And also with the solar eclipse that's happening on February the 17th, which is a minor eclipse in the sense of the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis and not going to shift until summer. But that may bring forth a new change, a shift, a new beginning, or seeding in the ninth house regarding travel, regarding foreign places, regarding education, or even like your spiritual beliefs and philosophies. So there may be some exciting changes happening there as well with the solar eclipse. So that is something to make note of. The third and ninth house axis, they're going to be very important, and you may find these a focus point during the year. Now, Uranus goes direct on February the 3rd, and this is impacting your 12th house. Now, you've been going through this transit for quite a few years, but this energy now, because it's going direct, it will finally move into your sign this year. So not long to go, where a lot of life shifts and changes, relationships changing and shifting, just your overall life changing and shifting. So get ready, prepare yourself, because it's all about to happen. Now, let's get into your 10th house of career goals and ambitions, because that is a very saturated area of life for you this month. You got Mercury, the planet of communication, entering Pisces and entering your 10th house on February the 6th. You got the planet of love and relationships entering Pisces on February the 10th, and the sun shining its light, bringing more energy and focus into your 10th house on February the 18th. So it seems like there's going to be a lot of focus on your 10th house as well. You may find yourself very focused on career and building for yourself and your ambitions and goals. Now, what's interesting is February the 26th, we got Mercury going retrograde. So right at the end of the month, Mercury is bringing all the drama. Now, this is going to make you reassess and reevaluate and slow down on career goals and ambitions. Things may not be clear, there may be a lack of clarity, but through this Mercury retrograde journey and process, that's when you'll start, and when you do all that retrograde shadow work, that's when you'll gain that clarity and things will become clear. But the energy is asking to slow down and be more careful in this area of life, to be more intuitive in this area of life, to also be in touch with your emotions regarding this area of life, and to take your time with this area of life so you can really put everything in perspective. Okay, there may be a lot of emotions involved here. You may find your approach towards this area of life is very emotional, or there's a lot of creativity involved in this area of life, but there seems to be a lot of back and forth, and it's about just stop, pause, and just regain clarity so that you can then move forward. Love and relationships may be involved here as well. Now, the standard retrograde rules apply. You know, people from the past can come back into your life, situations from the past, things may not go the way you plan them, and that's where, you know, you got to just be very cautious and be very patient. But a lot of focus on career goals and ambitions for you this month. Now, let's get into the big one. Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction February the 20th. So Saturn enters Aries again on February the 13th, and this is all going to go down in your 11th house of friendships, groups, social networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. Now, Saturn and Neptune are complete opposites. Saturn is a disciplinary, it's about reality, commitment, discipline, structure. Neptune is the opposite. Neptune lacks boundaries. It's all about illusions and imagination and fantasy. So when they come together, it can be quite an awkward meeting. But Saturn's like, Neptune, you got to get your stuff together. You got to remove those rose-tinted glasses. You got to look at everything for what it is, and you got to get out of this imaginary bubble and be very much in tune with reality. So if you've been either idolizing friends or people or groups or just society and parts of society, that is going to all shift and change. If you've been just looking at this area of life from rose-tinted glasses and the people in your life and the people you're connected with, you're going to be in for a rude awakening, and you may find the reality of people and situations, and it may leave you disappointed at first, but it's crucial because it's part of your awakening, and that's where your higher self wants you to focus and grow in. And in terms of hopes and wishes for the future, also idolizing some of your visions, that may shift, that may change, because Saturn may really awaken you, and things may have to change in the sense of there'll have to be more structure involved, there'll have to be more balance involved, more commitment and devotion. So, Gem Rising, it's a big month in February. I'm wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Cancer rising, welcome to your February monthly horoscope. February is an action-packed month. It's Mercury retrograde season, eclipse season, and the big one, Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction, which is highly anticipated in the world of astrology. So there's a lot to get through. I'm going to kick off with February the 1st, where we have a full moon in Leo. This full moon in Leo is occurring at 13 degrees, where the sun will be in Aquarius and opposite will be the moon in Leo. This is impacting your 2nd and 8th house axis. The moon, which is emotions, your sensitivities and sentiment, will be activating and impacting the 2nd house. The 2nd house is about self-worth, abundance, which then moves into what you own, resources, money manifestation, finances. And then opposite, you've got the 8th house, which is more about what you own and share with others, as well as intimacy and deep spiritual transformation. This full moon in Leo may give you a bit of a sneak peek of what you can expect throughout this year, because the eclipses will be activating these two areas of life. So they're going to be a major theme throughout this year. Now, full moons do emphasize on letting go, releasing, closure, cycles coming to an end. So there could be something that comes to a finale, or something regarding these two areas of life transforms. Now, this energy is going to continue because on February the 17th, we've got a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and this is occurring and activating your 8th house. The sun and the moon will both be in the 8th house, Mars will be in the 8th house, and Pluto will be in the 8th house, which means there will be so much energy regarding shared finances, resources, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. It seems like there's a lot of energy, a lot of shifts, a lot of changes, a lot of emotion, a lot of drive, and a lot of transformation occurring in this area of life. Now, this solar eclipse is going to occur at 28 degrees, so take a look at your chart. If you have any planets close to 28 degrees of Aquarius or even Leo, this will impact you more profoundly. Now, this solar eclipse is a little more minor in the sense of it's gonna be more amplified when we get into summer, because currently the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, but when we enter summer, they change into the Aquarius and Leo axis. So it's giving you again a little sneak peek of what you can expect. It's kind of just seeding, it's a seeding point. And journaling can be really supportive during this time because it can support you to understand what some of the themes throughout the year will be like, because this definitely will reveal that. And just having a journal in general throughout a year and then noting down what you're feeling, what's coming up, what you're experiencing can be so supportive in just your self-awareness journey and just spiritual journey. So the second and eighth house axis are going to be super important this year, and they're being very much activated in the month of February. Moving on, Uranus goes direct on February the 3rd. This will go direct in your 11th house of friendships, groups, social networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. We're at the end of this cycle, so it's all about integrating the last few lessons of this energy, and then we'll get ready to move into the 12th house, where there will be new activations and a new cycle that occurs. So it's just about integrating the final lessons of the 11th house with other people, friends, acquaintances, and your hopes and wishes for the future. February the 6th. Mercury, the planet of communication, enters watery Pisces. It will enter your 9th house of mind, philosophies, education, and travel. Now, this area of life is super significant because we've got Venus entering this area of life on February the 10th, the Sun amplifying its light on February the 18th, and then we've got Mercury going retrograde in Pisces on February the 26th as well. So it seems like you'll be going over this area of life quite a lot. There may be past situations that come up, or there may be a lot of reassessing, reevaluating, restructuring this area of life. You may find that throughout this journey, things may not be as clear, but as the days go on and you start to navigate through this journey, things will start to fall into place. That's part of the process. So because it's in the 9th house, this could have to do with your mind. It could have to do with what you believe in, thoughts, your perspective, how you view the world. This is like your worldly perspective as well as faith, how much faith you have, and your philosophies, your spiritual beliefs. And this could also involve travel. If you do have some plans, there may be some slowing down or a delay. That's typical with Mercury retrograde, and things may not go on the time scale that you want them to, but it's part of the process, so do bear that in mind. Moving on, Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction on February the 20th. Now, Saturn will re-enter Aries and move into your 10th house on February the 13th, and then Neptune is already in your 10th house, but on February the 20th, Saturn and Neptune come together. This is going to be super important. Now, the 10th house is your career, is your goals, it's your ambitions, and Saturn and Neptune are completely two opposite energies. Saturn is a disciplinary, and it's about reality, hard work, putting all your effort, being devoted, being very sober in how you navigate through in life. And then you've got Neptune, which is a complete opposite. Neptune has no boundaries, no limitations. It's all about imagination and fantasy, and it can lack limitations and boundaries. So when Saturn and Neptune come together, this could be a very spiritually awakening time. If you've been idolizing or romanticizing this area of life, or you've been looking at it from rose-tinted glasses, or you've been just hoping and wishing for things to occur, then Saturn is going to be really helping you to remove those rose-tinted glasses and get in tune with reality. Saturn is going to provide you with a framework to really put in the effort, the energy, the hard work to nourish and nurture your goals regarding career and what you want to accomplish. At first, there may be some disappointment involved. You may feel like that you have been actually romanticizing this area of life, but with this awakening, you'll come into alignment with what actually needs to occur so that you can reach certain goals regarding this area of life. So get ready, because this area of life is going to bring a lot of awakening, a lot of truth, a lot of reality checks, and those reality checks will then support you to really put in all the energy and effort you have to accomplish some of your goals. So, Cancer rising, a lot going on in the month of February. It's an action-packed month. I'm wishing you all the best. Let me know how you get on. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Leo rising, welcome to your February 2026 astrology horoscope. It's a big month ahead. It's Mercury retrograde season. We have a solar eclipse happening in your opposite sign. It's your annual full moon, and we have Saturn in a conjunction with Neptune, which is highly anticipated in the world of astrology. So there is a lot to get to. We're going to dive straight away into the full moon in Leo at 13 degrees because it's happening on the first day of February. So take a look at your chart and take a look at if you have your Leo placements at either 13 degrees of Leo or close by, because the closer or the exact this energy is, the more stronger it will manifest for you. So full moons, what are full moons? Well, full moons are a culmination point. This is when the energy is at its highest, at its most intense. It's ready to move into something new, change into something new. It's ready to release, let go. It's ready to create and transform. For you, it's impacting your first and your seventh house. So the first house is me, myself, and I. It's your identity. It's all about you, life path, and purpose. And the seventh house is other people, relationships, marriages, significant partnerships. The moon will be in your first house, so your emotional attachment and sensitivities and sentiment will be attuned more to yourself. And the sun, which is adding a lot of light and vitality into your seventh house. And during this time, you may find that because it's your annual full moon in Leo, you may be ready to let go of something or someone. This could be as simple as letting go of an attitude, letting go of a belief, letting go of part of your identity, letting go of a certain person in your life. It really depends on, of course, your chart, but full moons always encourage a letting go and a releasing. But also, full moons, on the other hand, can work out in the sense of they can create something new. The full moon can transform into something new because the moon is really a shapeshifter. And this is, of course, impacting either your first house or your seventh house. And there could be some significant changes here. So take a look at your chart. If you have 13 degrees of Leo or any Leo placements close to 13 degrees, this will be much more profound for you and it's going to be much more personal. Let's get into Uranus going direct on February the 3rd. This is happening in your 10th house of career goals and ambitions, and this area of life has been impacted by Uranus for quite some years now. Now this energy is moving forward, so there's final lessons to learn in this area of life, and then this energy will be ready to move on. So expect changes, expect innovation, expect things moving at a very fast pace because that's Uranus in your 10th house. February the 6th, Mercury, the planet of communication and travel, enters Pisces, entering your 8th house. The 8th house is an extension of the 7th house. This focuses on the resources and finances you share with other people, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. Mercury being the planet of communication, this could involve either someone else or third party. This can involve communicating and going back and forth over negotiating, and this is particularly emphasized because we will have Mercury going retrograde on February the 26th, so there could be a lot of reevaluating, reassessing, restructuring this area of life. Things may not be as clear during this process of Mercury gradually moving into retrograde motion, but that's part of the Mercury retrograde journey, is to come to clarity, but through navigating and being in that journey. So it's about learning some lessons that may have to do with the past. And because this Mercury retrograde will be in the sign Pisces, there's a lot of emotion involved in. It's a lot from the past coming up as well. Now there's a lot of light and emphasis on the 8th house because the sun will also be in Pisces on February the 18th. And the goddess of love and relationships will also be in Pisces and in your 8th house on February the 10th. So this can involve relationships, partnerships, other people, and intimacy. So that is very much in the limelight, especially because the sun and Venus will move out of your 7th house into your 8th house. So a lot of the matters and themes of the 7th house will continue on. Now, this is greatly emphasized because we got a solar eclipse happening in your opposite sign on February the 17th. This eclipse is occurring at 28 degrees of Aquarius, so take a look at your chart if you have planets in either Aquarius or Leo at the end of those zodiacs, because this will impact you more profoundly because Aquarius is your opposite sign, so it does influence your zodiac. Now, this is happening in your 7th house, so this could be a new beginning, a new change, a new shift in your relationship, marriage, or with a significant person. Take a look at your chart and really take notes as well during this time, because a lot of what's going on will also be connected with the solar eclipse. Especially when we kick off February and you got your full moon in Leo, that axis is activated and it's energized, and it's going to develop as the days go on and when we reach the solar eclipse. Even though this is a minor eclipse in the sense of the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, they will change into the Leo and Aquarius axis in summer, and that's when these eclipses will be even more stronger for the next 18 months. But nonetheless, this is a teaser, a little taste, a little sneak peek where the karmic cycles are really being activated and where you will be going through a very important process in your life, and it has to do with you, your identity, life path, purpose, other people, relationships, and partnerships. You already have Pluto and Mars in February in your seventh house, so there may be a lot of intensity that you experience, a lot of deep emotion and a lot of transformation occurring, life really picking the pace up because Mars is here. So take notes because it's a teaser to what's to come throughout the year. And eclipses can bring major life changes. They don't always happen throughout the first cycle of the eclipse. This could happen at different moments because it really depends on what degree the eclipse is at. Okay, so keep a journal because this could really help to support you in the journey of the eclipses and what you're experiencing and what you're going through, that you can then later on, when these eclipses are over and done with, really reflect at them. Okay, now let's get into Saturn and Neptune. Now Saturn re-enters Aries on February the 13th, impacting your ninth house, and then Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction on February the 20th. So what is the ninth house? The ninth house has to do with our higher mind, beliefs, philosophies, could have to do with education, and also the big one, which is travel and foreign places. Now, Saturn and Neptune are complete opposites. Saturn is the sage. Saturn is a teacher. Saturn teaches us hard work, commitment, effort, focus, and also is very realistic. And Neptune is a complete opposite. Neptune is all about imagination. It doesn't have any boundaries or limitations. It's all about fantasy, whatever feels good, whatever inspires it in the moment. So when they come together, this could be a reality check. This could be an awakening moment. This could be a time where the rose tinted glasses are really just taken off and you're left with the reality of what you have been believing in, or perhaps your spiritual beliefs change dramatically. Perhaps just the way life and how you view life completely shifts and changes. There could also be some changes in travel. There could be some limitations because Saturn does sometimes bring a slowing down process. So you got to just be aware of your limitations and boundaries. So this could be a time where you're really spiritually evolving and a lot is coming into perspective, but it's huge in the sense of it's no like little transit, it's major, which means that it can really shift you to the point of where other people are noticing you're different and your mindset's different and what you think and believe is completely different, and that is part of the awakening. So February is action packed. There's a lot going down. I mean, you got your annual full moon, then you've got the eclipse in your opposite sign, Mercury retrograde, and Saturn and Neptune coming into a conjunction. So Leo rising, you're one of the main characters of February. Take care, keep a journal, write down what you're going through, experiencing. That'll be really supportive, and I'll speak with you soon. Lots of love. Hi Virgo, Virgo rising. Let's get into your astrology horoscope for February 2026. February 2026 is a pivotal month in astrology. It's Mercury retrograde season, it's eclipse season, and we have the big one. Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction, which is a very highly anticipated event occurring in February. So there's a lot to get into. Let's start off with February the 1st. February the 1st, we have a full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. So the sun will be in Aquarius in your sixth house of daily life routine, wellness, and work. And the moon will be in your 12th house of spirituality, creativity, your connection with the universe, or anything spiritual, as well as the past and karmic cycles. So with this full moon occurring in your 6th and 12th house axis, it really is showing there needs to be a balance in both of these areas of life. And it seems like these energies are coming into a very intense opposition, and they're ready to change into a different form. This is a very important axis for you because throughout this year and next year, these areas of life are constantly going to be activated, and that's because the eclipses will also take place in both the 12th and the 6th house. But this full moon in Leo at the beginning of the month is really just setting the tone, and it seems like your life force and vitality, stamina, momentum is very much focused on your daily life and how it's organized and structured, perhaps even wellness and how you take care of yourself, as well as work, especially when Mars is in the 6th house. But emotionally, where the moon is at, it seems like emotionally and then your sensitivities are very much associated with the 12th house, which is also a very emotional and sensitive area of life. It seems like you are attached to the past in a way. Your emotions are attached to the past. You are feeling a lot of past emotions coming up, or emotionally you're more invested in the spiritual side of life, and your creativity is also emotionally inspired. So it seems like there's going to be some energetic shift occurring between these two areas of life, and it may be something comes to an end, a closure, cycle chapter coming to a close, or a new transformation occurring. And be mindful of what's going on during this time. Make notes of it, because this will be also emphasized when we get into the solar eclipse that will occur in Aquarius on February the 17th. So we've got the full moon in Leo happening, which is a culmination point, and its energies coming to their fullest, ready for a shift to occur in these two areas of life. Could have to do with the past, could have to do with your spiritual journey, could have to do with work and how your life is organized. But then when we get into the second half of the month and the solar eclipse in Aquarius approaches on February the 17th at 28 degrees, this will impact the 6th house. So it's almost like you're emotionally preparing at the beginning of the month with this full moon in Leo, but then when we get into February the 17th, there's this new beginning, new shift, new change that can occur regarding your life, especially health, wellness, how you take care of yourself, and work. There could be some new beginning, new shift, new change. And this solar eclipse is kind of like a minor eclipse in the sense of the nodes are still in Pisces and your sign Virgo. They haven't fully changed yet until summer. So this is kind of like a sneak peek and a taste of what you can expect when the nodes fully shift into the Leo and Aquarius axis, and then we're going to have a year and a half of those energies being really strong and dominant. So again, make notes of what you're going through and what's coming up for you, because the 12th and 6th house axis is going to play a huge role. So that's the eclipse energy. Then we've got Uranus going direct on February the 3rd as well in your 9th house of travel, long distance journeys, and also your higher mind. This energy is also going to start to shift soon. So it's just the final degrees it's in, and this energy is also now moving forward. And then we have Mercury entering Pisces on February the 6th in your opposite sign. This energy is super strong because we've got a Mercury retrograde happening at the end of the month. So when Mercury goes retrograde, especially in your opposite sign, there's a lot of past situations regarding other people, relationships, a marriage coming up. There could be some things you have to deal with, navigate through, reflect on, reassess, re-strategize. And this could be very emotional as well. And emotions is probably not your go-to state of being because you're an earth sign, but you may find that either people around you are very emotional, or they're activating a lot of emotion from you as well. So Mercury retrograde is a time of revisiting the past and going over what needs to be dealt with. And as Mercury retrograde takes you on this journey, things will slowly yet surely get more clear. And it has a lot to do with relationships and other people. You know, anyone that is very significant in your life, a romantic relationship, even a platonic relationship, some relationship that is very significant in your life. And there could be multiple of those that come up during this month, because you're going to have the Sun enter Pisces on February the 18th, again amplifying this energy, this area of life. Venus, a planet of love and relationships, also enters Pisces on February the 10th. So love and relationships and other people will play a huge role in your life in the month of February. Now let's get into the Saturn and Neptune conjunction. February the 20th, Saturn-Neptune will come into a conjunction. Now, Saturn moves into Aries on February the 13th. This energy will be activating your 8th house. So the 8th house is, from the mundane aspect, it's shared finances, resources, and then you can get deeper into spiritual transformation. So anything that has been romanticized or has not been clear, or you've been viewing from rose-tinted glasses connected to this area of life that may involve other people or other people's resources, or even when it comes to just your overall life and the ability you have to spiritually transform, this is going to be an awakening moment. This is going to be a huge shift that you'll feel as soon as you hit February. You'll start to feel this energy develop and get much more stronger and intense. Now, Saturn and Neptune are two opposite energies. Saturn is a disciplinary, it's more militant, strict, it's all about reality, hard work, and commitment. Neptune is a daydreamer, it's all about romanticizing everything, and it's about fantasy, it's about imagination, and it lacks boundaries and limitations. So when Saturn and Neptune come together, it's about applying and implementing those boundaries, knowing your limits. If you don't know your limits, you will learn about your limits during this time. It's about structure and organization and being more disciplined in this area of life and being more responsible in this area of life. So this is going to be quite an awakening time, okay? And with the 8th house, because it has an element of mystery to it, it can mean anything for everyone. Like, it could be different for every single person, because everyone is on their unique journeys, and especially on their own unique spiritual path and journey. But overall, the 8th house is typically known to rule over shared finances, shared resources, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. So it's a big month in February. There's a lot going on. You're one of the main characters, actually, because you've got a lot of energies happening in your opposite sign. And then you've got the solar eclipse activating your 6th house, which you very much relate with as a Earth Virgo dominant. 6th houses: daily life, routine, structure, taking care of yourself, mind, body, soul, spirit, and work. And then you have the big one, Saturn Neptune, coming into a conjunction in one of the most intense areas of life, the 8th house. So a lot of awakenings, a lot of going over a lot of stuff. And, you know, with the whole retrogrades, the retrograde energy of Mercury happening in the 7th house, which involves other people, and then the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in the 8th house, they can very much be involved with each other. It could very much have to do with a marriage, a partnership, where you're having to deal with the financial situation, the paperwork. It could be very much a classic Mercury retrograde manifestation. So, you know, think through everything. Don't play on just what you're feeling. Mind, body, soul, spirit. Take everything into consideration and awareness, okay? Big month ahead. A lot of shifts, a lot of changes. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Hey Libra, Libra rising. Welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026. It's a big month in astrology. We have eclipse season, Mercury retrograde season, and Saturn and Neptune will be in a conjunction. So, we've got a lot to discuss, and I'm going to dive into the first day of February, where we have a full moon in Leo. This full moon in Leo is taking place at 13 degrees. So the sun will be in Aquarius and the moon will be in Leo. And this is activating your 5th and 11th house axis. So the sun will be in the 5th house, which is the area of life that rules over joy, happiness, self-expression, creativity, romance, and dating. And the moon will be in the 11th house of friendships, groups, networks, and hopes and wishes for the future. Full moons are a culmination point. This is where the energy is at its fullest, at its most intense, and it's ready to release into a new form. So it's ready to release, let go, it's ready to transform. Because this is in your 11th and 5th house axis, this could have to do with either your creativity, your self-expression, enjoyment, pleasure, romance, dating, or even the people in your life, friendships, groups, networks, and your hopes and wishes for the future. So these two energies combined, there could be something that is either let go of from these two areas of life, or something changes and shifts in these two areas of life. And these two areas are very important because that's where the eclipses will occur, the Leo and Aquarius eclipses, which we're going to get into. So whatever you feel during this time or whatever you're going through, it's going to set the foundation of what you can expect and what the themes and perhaps the karmic cycles of the Leo and Aquarius eclipses will mean for you. So take notes of these key dates and what you feel and what comes up in your life during that time. February the 3rd, Uranus goes direct. Uranus goes direct in Taurus in your 8th house. So the 8th house has to do with shared finances, resources, intimacy, and deep spiritual transformation. We're really at the end of this cycle because Uranus is preparing to move into the 9th house. So soak up in these last few lessons of Uranus, where Uranus wants change, independence, and innovation, so that we can prepare for Uranus moving into the 9th house. February the 6th, Mercury enters Pisces. So when Mercury enters Pisces, the mind, how we think, communication is much more emotional and intuitive, sentimental. And for you, this is occurring in your 6th house of your daily life routine, how it's organized and structured, as well as your work life as well. With Mercury retrograde, there's a pause. There's this period of reflection, reassessing, perhaps readjusting this area of life and coming to some very strong realizations, which will then make this area of life much more clear. There may be a lot of thinking happening, navigating through this area of life, processing some deep thoughts, as well as a lot of communication. And this energy is really amplified because the sun moves into Pisces on February the 18th, and Venus, the planet of love and relationships, enters the 6th house on February the 10th. So a lot of emphasis here, especially with love and relationships as well, and what makes you feel good, and even perhaps creativity. Now let's move on to Saturn. So Saturn enters Aries on February the 13th, moving out of Pisces, and then on February the 18th, February the 20th, Saturn and Neptune will come into a conjunction, and this will occur in your 7th house. Now, this is really interesting. One, because as a Libra dominant, ruled by Venus, a planet of love and relationships, it seems like you're always going through some relationship transit. I feel like just recently we're still kind of recovering from the eclipses you've been having. If you think about the Aries and Libra eclipses, I feel like that was just not too long ago. And you were dealing with that relationship stuff. And then here we have Neptune moving into your 7th house, Saturn moving into your 7th house. And then on February the 20th, they will be in a conjunction. So what does this mean? The 7th house is a house of love and relationships and marriage and commitment. And then Neptune is a planet of dreams and fantasy and illusions, sometimes even deceit. So you got to be careful with Neptune's influence, because sometimes it's too good to be true, or you can be sold on a fantasy, or you can be just so immersed in a relationship where you forget about everything else because it's almost very like intoxicating, or it feels like ecstasy. And then you got Saturn. Saturn is a complete opposite. Saturn is a disciplinary. It's about structure, reality, hard work, commitment, duties. And when Neptune and Saturn come together, remember this is Saturn being in a conjunction with Neptune, there may be a lot of rose tinted glasses removed, and you may be left with the truth of everything and the reality, and sometimes it can be a little disappointing, but it's necessary so you understand what is going on, and if there's any type of deceit or any illusion, Saturn is going to put that to an end. It's an awakening energy, it's an activating energy. So with Saturn and Neptune coming into a conjunction, you may be asked to focus more on your relationship, if you are in a relationship, from a much more realistic point of view, and understand and be very clear on your duties and your responsibilities. And if there's anything that is not clear, this may be the time where it's clarified. And if you're single, this may be a time where you just come into a very strong activation or realization or awakening of where have you been just fantasizing on relationships, or looking at relationships from rose tinted glasses and not looking at any of the red flags, or not looking at the reality. Sometimes in relationships, when you're so attracted to somebody, we can all have a tendency to just focus on the positive, and kind of look away from the red flags, or the potential red flags, or the potential issues that can occur, because we're just so immersed by the person or the relationship or the situation, that we are just focusing on the love, the romance, and the attraction. So this again can put things into perspective, and perhaps even just make it very clear of past relationships, and perhaps areas of relationships where you have perhaps kind of fantasized, or where you have just been immersed in the relationship and not realizing all the other flags, or your other responsibilities. Okay, so let me know how this goes for you. For each person it's going to be different, but let me know in the comment section down below. I'm very interested to know. Let's move on to the eclipse. So we've got a solar eclipse happening in Aquarius at 28 degrees on February the 17th. And this is, again, really impacting and emphasizing your fifth house. Remember, Pluto is also in your fifth house, so there's a lot of emphasis here. Now, the fifth house is a really nice house, a nice area of life, because it has to do with pleasure, joy, happiness, self-expression, creativity, and romance and dating. With the solar eclipse, it's kind of like a minor eclipse, because the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, and they won't move into the Leo and Aquarius axis until summer. But nonetheless, it's kind of planting the seeds, or it's kind of like a taster, a teaser, sneak peek to what's to come. And with a solar eclipse being a new cycle, a new beginning, a new chapter, this has to do with how much fun and joy and abundance you're feeling in life, and how great you're feeling about your individuality and your expression. Great for creativity. It's going to be very innovative and different and unique, and you may find that how you experience fun or pleasure, or how you express yourself, or what you need in life to fulfill you is just so much more different than what you're used to in terms of romantic attraction and dating. You may even be intrigued by somebody who's completely different, or someone who's very Aquarian. Okay, because this is also an area of life that rules relationship, not serious relationships like the seventh house, more so the attraction, the dating aspect, the romance. But it could be something, or someone that comes into your life that is very different and unique, like an Aquarius. So Libra rising, it's quite an action-packed month in February. We've got a lot going on. Retrograde season is upon us, Saturn conjunct Neptune, and a solar eclipse in Aquarius. So there may be a lot of pivotal shifts happening in the month of February. Let me know how you get on with this month. Leave a comment down below. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Scorpio rising. Welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026. It's a pivotal month because it's Mercury retrograde season, it's eclipse season, and we have Saturn that is going to be in a conjunction with Neptune, and that's a very highly anticipated energetic shift. So we've got a lot to get through. This is when there could be a lot of shifts and changes and intensities occurring. So let's get started with the first day of February, where we have a full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. So the sun will be in Aquarius and the moon will be in Leo. And this is impacting your 4th and 10th house axis. So the sun is shining its light into home, family, security, your personal life, stability, and then you've got the moon, which is the emotions, the attachment, the sensitivities, which is activating your 10th house of career goals and ambitions. So this could be a time where something dramatically shifts or changes, because full moons are a culmination point. This is where the energy is at its intensity and it's ready to change into another form. This could also mean that if you've been working hard on something, or if you've had a particular goal related to the 10th and the 4th house, this is when it could come into fruition, or something regarding that changes or shifts, or even something comes to an end. A cycle closes, a chapter closes. Now for you, the 4th and 10th house are very important because the eclipses that are occurring in the signs Leo and Aquarius will be impacting this axis. And since I'm on the topic of the full moon, let me just talk about it. Let me talk about the solar eclipse that's happening in Aquarius. This eclipse is happening on February the 17th, and it's happening in your 4th house, where both the moon and the sun will be at. You already have Pluto here, and Mars is also going to be here. Talk about so much energy, stamina, momentum, so much shifting, changing, a lot of intensity and emotion, and just so much light activating this area of life. This could be a seeding point. This could be the beginning of the new cycle. It's almost like the full moon kind of closes a chapter of some sort, like it closes a part of this cycle you're in, and then here comes a solar eclipse and it's activating this area of life. Now, this solar eclipse is kind of like a minor eclipse in the sense of the nodes are still in the Virgo and Pisces axis. They haven't yet moved into the Aquarius and Leo axis. So it's kind of like a teaser, a taste, a sneak peek of what you can expect when the nodes do shift into the Aquarius and Leo axis, which they will in some, and then remain in those signs until the next year and a half. So with Mars, Pluto, Sun, Moon in the 4th house, expect change. Expect a lot of energy. Expect home and family life, your personal life, your sense of belonging, security to be in the limelight. That's what you're really kind of going to be in the midst of, okay, during this solar eclipse. And there could be something that changes significantly in this area of life. And take a look at your chart. If you have any planets in either Aquarius, Leo, even Scorpio and Taurus at 28 degrees, this is going to be a very strong eclipse for you. Now, Uranus goes direct on February the 3rd. That's a ruler of Aquarius, and it's going direct in your 7th house of relationships, marriage, committed partnerships. Now, this is an energy you've been experiencing for many years now. This energy is getting ready to move forward into the 8th house, into the area of life that best defines a Scorpio rising. So it's just this final little lessons we need to learn so we can really integrate this energy and then move forward. So some of you are still expecting, especially if you have late Scorpio rising, you're expecting or you're feeling and you're going through a lot of shifts and changes regarding relationships and other people and marriages. February the 6th, Mercury enters Pisces. Mercury enters Pisces, entering your 5th house. There's a lot of energy in your 5th house because the sun will move into Pisces on February the 18th. You've got Venus entering Pisces on February the 10th. So there's a lot of light, a lot of energy, a lot of focus in terms of love and relationships and creativity and how you enjoy pleasure, how you express yourself. That is going to be a huge component of these transits. Now, with Mercury entering your 5th house, there may be a lot of stimulation and a lot of ideas regarding how you express yourself with your creativity. If you work in any creative fields or you're just a creative person, this could give you a great boost of creativity. A lot of ideas flowing, just really feeling and tapping into your gifts and your natural abilities. Now, this Mercury retrograde is really important because it's going to go retrograde at the end of the month. Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces on February the 26th. So there could be some situations regarding the fifth house, whether it being romance and dating, whether it being pleasure, joy, happiness, creativity, like I said, or even how you express yourself. There may be a lot of revisiting old past romantic endeavors. There may be just reevaluating, reassessing this area of life, or even perfecting your craft in this area of life. Because it's in the fifth house, it's not as intense for you. Yes, it depends on your chart, and it depends on what else is going on in your chart and your natural placements, but just the fact of Mercury being in the fifth house, it's more so reevaluating just your life. Like, am I having too much fun in terms of, do I know my limitations and my boundaries? Or am I going overboard where it's actually not in my best interest? It's not actually healthy, it's actually self-destructive. Those may be some themes that you have to kind of reflect over. With Pisces, sometimes it just wants to drift away in a daydream because it's ruled by Neptune, and it wants to be in fantasy and feeling and emotion. So there may be some emotions that you have to, especially because you're water dominant, you have to also reassess, reevaluate, and even restructure this area of life. But yes, the standard Mercury retrograde do's and don'ts apply, of course, but for you in the fifth house, it's more subtle in a way. Now let's talk about the highly anticipated astrological event that's occurring in February. So on February the 13th, Saturn re-enters Aries, moving into your sixth house where Neptune is also at. Now the sixth house has to do with daily life routine. It's how your life is kind of like structured, your daily life, and also how organized it is. It also has to do with work and wellness and how you take care of yourself. Both Saturn and Neptune coming together in this area of life, it's very heavy and intense in the sense of it's an awakener. It's an awakener. So if you've kind of been ignoring this area of life or not making it a priority, or if you've been looking at this area of life from rose-tinted glasses, or you've been denying this area of life, Saturn being in a conjunction with Neptune is going to show you the reality where you're gonna have to restructure this area of life. You're gonna have to get more organized. You're gonna have to get everything together. You're gonna have to be in this structure, a routine. You're gonna have to prioritize mind, body, soul, spirit. Be more disciplined in how you take care of yourself, and also with work, the structure, the organization, how disciplined you are, that's also going to apply. Now, Neptune and Saturn are two opposite energies. Saturn is a disciplinary. It's about rules and commitment and reality, whereas Neptune is all about fantasy and dreaming and inspiration, and it lacks boundaries. But when Saturn and Neptune come together, there's got to be boundaries. There's got to be discipline, because it's about everything coming into a straight line rather than everything being all over the place, which cannot happen in the sixth house. Because, let me give you a very interesting example. A lot of the times, and you let me know if this is true or not, if you have, and this is such a sixth house example, by the way, if you don't have let's say your closet organized, or your office organized, or just where you live, if your area of living is not organized, your mind is also just kind of in clutter. It's all over the place. But as soon as you get everything in order and organize everything, you'll find that you have this relief, and you're able to think more clearly, and you're able to do things much more efficiently. And that's Saturn for you in the sixth house. It's like, get everything together. Get everything together. That way you can think straight. That's how you can gain more clarity. So let me know how this transit goes for you. But you'll find that when you enter February, and as closer you get to this conjunction, you'll find that the sixth house, how you take care of yourself, mind, body, soul, spirit, how you are organized, your routine, your daily life, how it's structured, wellness and work will all become very important. So, Scorpio rising, there's a big month ahead. I'm wishing you all the best in February. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Lots of love. Sag rising, let's get into your astrology horoscope for February 2026. It's a big month astrologically. We've got Mercury retrograde season, Saturn conjunct Neptune, and a solar eclipse in Aquarius. So let's kick off with what's happening on the first day of February, and that is a full moon in Leo at 13 degrees. Now, this full moon in Leo is impacting your 3rd and 9th house axis. The mind, communication, philosophies, and travel will be quite significant for you this full moon. Now, you got the sun in Aquarius in the 3rd house of the mind, ideas, thinking, learning, communication, and your daily travels. And then you've got the moon, which is going to be in the 9th house of philosophies and long distance travel and foreign places. So there may be some travel involved for you this month, especially if you're planning some travel. Now, with the full moon in Leo, this shows there's a culmination point happening. Perhaps you've been putting a lot of energy into travel. Perhaps you've been focusing or planning a lot. Or it may be that it has to do with some type of belief or some type of awakening occurring during this time as well, because the 3rd and 9th house axis have a lot to do with the mind, have a lot to do with the crown chakra as well. And full moons do show where there is a culmination point and where there's a finale or a chapter coming to an end for a new beginning to occur, where there is a transformation. So there could be a transformation in the way you think, the way your ideas are formed and developed, the way you learn, process information, or your communication. There may be a shift or change there, or there may be a shift or change or transformation in your traveling journeys or travel plans, or even when it comes to some of your beliefs as well and how much faith you have. So that's something to look forward to. February the 3rd, Uranus goes direct. Uranus will go direct in your 6th house of daily life routine, health, wellness, and work. And this energy is ready to move into Gemini, into the 7th house, but there's just a few lessons and just a few more energetic activations left with this energy moving forward until we can fully move into the 7th house. So soak it all up and really integrate all those lessons, because Uranus is really shifting and changing a lot, and perhaps already has, in your 6th house. Let's talk about retrograde season. So Mercury goes retrograde on February the 26th in Pisces at 22 degrees, and it will be impacting your 4th house, where there's a lot of energy. You're going to have the sun moving into the 4th house. You're going to have Venus, planet of love and relationships, moving into the 4th house. The 4th house is home, it's family, it's security, where you find your sense of belonging. It's where you can find a lot of your intuition and spiritual gifts that have been passed on from generations. Now, with Mercury retrograde occurring in the 4th house, this gives us an opportunity to pause and to reflect and to reassess and rejuvenate as well, and restructure this area of life. And there may be a lot of things that come into perspective regarding home and family life and your sense of security and stability. Perhaps things were not clear, but this energy helps you to process and navigate through this area of life, and throughout this journey that you start to regain more clarity and a much more deeper understanding. And there may be a lot of emotion and sentiment attached to this area of life, because there's a lot of Pisces energy, and Pisces is a water sign. Love and relationships may also be very much involved. Creativity may be involved, and also because the sun is here, it's really just amplifying the 4th house. So that is going to be a very important area of life for you this month. Moving on, Saturn enters Aries on February the 13th, and then on February the 20th, there will be a Saturn and Neptune conjunction occurring, and this conjunction is occurring in your 5th house. The 5th house is a house of play. It's a house of fun and joy, pleasure, creativity, self-expression, also romance and dating. Now, with Saturn and Neptune coming together, it's an energy that can really be very awakening and activating. It removes all rose-tinted glasses. It removes any illusions or anything that's false, and it leaves us with the truth and the reality of the area of life it's in. So it may reveal to you where you have been either drifting away in fantasy, or where you've been wearing rose-tinted glasses, or where you've been perhaps having too much fun and neglecting responsibilities, or where you need to find more balance And for example, you could be having too much fun, and then here comes Saturn and Neptune, and then you come to a realization, wait, I haven't been having fun in the most healthiest way, or I haven't been focusing on my priorities or my responsibilities, and they're neglected, and now I have to deal with the consequences of them. So Saturn teaches us life lessons. Neptune is a daydreamer. Neptune will dream and dream and dream, and it doesn't have boundaries, whereas Saturn sets the boundaries. So that may be something that is very important in the month of February for you. Now let's talk about the eclipse. So February the 17th, we've got a solar eclipse in Aquarius happening at 28 degrees. So the sun and the moon will be in your third house of the mind, of learning, thinking, processing ideas, communication, and your daily travels and environments. So it kind of moves back to the February full moon that we're going to have at the beginning of the month on the 1st. And that energy is repeating, but in a different way, because solar eclipses are about, yes, new beginnings, new cycles, new chapters. It's a seeding point, but also eclipses can bring major life changes. The thing about this eclipse is the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis. They will be at 8 degrees when this solar eclipse occurs, so they're not even in the Aquarius and Leo axis. But nonetheless, this solar eclipse is going to be a bit of a taste, a teaser, a sneak peek to what we can expect in the next 2 years. And this area of life for you is going to be very important, the 3rd and the 9th house. And it's very much connected to you, because Sagittarius is all about mind, philosophy, travel, moving around, new places, new experiences, people, communication, connecting. So this is going to be a solar eclipse that kind of seeds that journey you're going to be on, because there's going to be many different activations throughout the year. Now take a look at your chart. If you have Aquarius planets in your chart at 28 degrees or close by, this is going to be more profound and significant for you. And remember, we also have Pluto in Aquarius as well, so there could be this transformation in the way you think, the way you perceive things, how you navigate through certain thoughts and process information and ideas, and how you communicate in your daily life and your daily environments and daily travels. There could be something new, something innovative, something that changes there. So February is an action-packed month, a very important month in astrology, and this is where the astrology is really getting into place and things are changing significantly. So I'm wishing you all the best this month, Sag Rising. Take care, and I will speak with you soon. Hi Cap Rising, welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026. February is a very important month in astrology. We have Mercury retrograde occurring, Saturn will be in a conjunction with Neptune, which is highly anticipated, and also a solar eclipse in Aquarius. So we're going to go through all the major events of February. So let's get started with February the 1st. Got a full moon happening in Leo. The sun will be in Aquarius and the moon will be in Leo at 13 degrees. And this is impacting and activating your 2nd and 8th house axis. So you got the sun in Aquarius in your 2nd house. 2nd house is what you own, resources, finances, self-worth. And then you've got the 8th house, which is about what you share with others, resources you share with others, intimacy, deep spiritual transformation. So it seems like your ego and pride and where there's a lot of spotlight is in your 2nd house, but emotionally, there's a lot of emotion and attachment to your 8th house. And the full moon is a culmination point. It's where the energy is almost ready to be completed, and then it's ready for its release. And also it can bring forth endings, cycles and chapters coming to a close, a finale, or a new transformation can occur through that culmination of energy. So if you've been working on the 2nd and 8th house matters, there may be some type of change happening during this time. And if you have planets in either Aquarius or Leo at 13 degrees or close by, then this full moon will have a much more profound impact on you. And if there's anything that you want to release during this time, whether it be attachments to finances, resources, or some type of contract, or whether it be letting go or releasing how you feel limited and any type of anxiety, be intentional. Write down what it is that you want to release so that you can move forward and away from this energy. February the 3rd, Uranus goes direct. So Uranus will go direct in your 5th house. And this is really coming to an end, this cycle, because soon it will be in Gemini in the 6th house. So soak up all the creativity, all the innovation, all the changes that Uranus is bringing in your house of creativity, joy, leisure, and pleasure, because it's going to be moving into the 6th house soon this year. Now let's get into some Mercury retrograde energy. So February the 6th, Mercury enters Pisces. Now this is where communication, how you think, is more emotional, more intuitive. And then when we get to the end of the month, February the 26th, Mercury goes into retrograde motion at 22 degrees of Pisces. And it will be impacting your 3rd house. So the 3rd house has to do with the mind. It has to do with learning, communication, ideas, also travel, your local environments, daily environments you're around. So there may be a pause, a period of reflection, reassessing, reevaluating some of the ways you think, how you process information, some of the ideas and topics coming up for you, or the environments you're around, or the conversations that are occurring. There may be a much more emotional influence during this time, but there's also this intuitive process you're going through to kind of navigate through this area of life. And this is also emphasized because you got the Sun and Venus also joining Mercury into the 3rd house in the month of February. Venus will enter Pisces on February the 10th, and the Sun will enter Pisces on February the 18th. So there's already a lot of focus, so this could also be very much concerned with your life path and purpose, which is the Sun, and then you've also got Venus, which is love, relationships, and creativity. So there may be some type of navigating that occurs during this Mercury retrograde process, and it's about getting clear. It's about clarity. It's about strengthening your intuition and healing certain emotions that perhaps have been lingering or you've absorbed or that are ready to just be worked on, okay? So Mercury retrograde may be a time where things are not that clear, but that's part of the process. It's as the days go by through the Mercury retrograde season journey, things start to get more clearer because you're navigating through some of those karmic lessons, okay? And for you, there could be some very emotional, spiritual conversations that occur that have been long overdue. Now let's get into the solar eclipse that's happening in Aquarius on February the 17th. So this solar eclipse is happening at the end of Aquarius at 28 degrees. It's a new moon solar eclipse. Now the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis, okay? So this eclipse is giving us a bit of a taste, a bit of a teaser, and a sneak peek to what's to come in the next year ahead. And this is happening again in the 2nd house for you. Now the 2nd house has to do with money, finances, resources, but behind all of that is a big word: self-worth. Okay, now self-worth is key for money manifestation, for how much abundance you bring into life. And with the Sun and the Moon in this area of life, there could be some significant change or seed that is planted, or something you've been working through that brings a lot of change and shift and abundance into your life with this energy. So that is something that may be very much anticipated, especially for those that are Capricorn dominant. But remember, eclipses can bring major life changes, and it's not necessarily always in the area of life that it's impacting. It can have a ripple effect. It can have a domino effect as well. When it impacts one area, it can impact another area as well. But they do bring major changes into our life, and this is an energy that's going to be activated at various points, okay, throughout this year and next year. February the 20th, we got the big one, Saturn and Neptune coming into a conjunction. Now, Saturn re-enters Aries on February the 13th, but it doesn't catch up to Neptune until February the 20th, and that's where we have the highly anticipated Saturn and Neptune conjunction in the sign of Aries. Now, this could bring some sort of spiritual awakening. This could be a reality check, rose-tinted glasses falling off, and we are left with nothing but the truth and the reality, which is very much activating our entire life. And for you, it's happening in your 4th house of home, security, family, as well as sense of belonging. So any type of illusion or any type of rose-tinted glasses you've had on, this is a time where those all come off and you're left and stripped with nothing but the reality. You're left with the reality of everything. Any type of illusion or lack of clarity, that's when everything becomes much more clear. And it may be a rude awakening, or you can perhaps even see it as a spiritual awakening, but it's going to be very much activating, okay? So that area of life is going to be very important throughout this year for you. Home, family, sense of security. And you can even do just such deep ancestral shadow work and healing in this area of life. So it's a big month ahead, February. Retrogrades happening, eclipses, and the Saturn and Neptune conjunction. Let me know how this month goes for you. And if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below. Let me know your big three, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Aquarius, Aquarius rising. Welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026. February is a very critical month in astrology because it's Mercury retrograde season. Saturn will be in a conjunction with Neptune, which is highly anticipated in astrology. And also, we have a solar eclipse in your sign. Now, as I'm recording this, the sun is getting ready to move into your sign. So I just want to give a shout out to all those Aquarians celebrating their solar return. Now, this month is going to be very pivotal and very important for a lot of Aquarians because of the solar eclipse. Now, this is a bit of a teaser and a bit of a sneak peek to what's to come in the next 2 years, because the nodes are still in the Pisces and Virgo axis. They will change in summer into the Aquarius and Leo axis, and that's when we'll start to have much more stronger eclipses in the sign of Aquarius and Leo. But some of yous are really being impacted this month, and I want to get straight into the eclipse. Eclipses do bring major life changes, and they can impact all areas of life, from your sense of self to relationships, career, home, you name it. They can bring the changes that you have been working towards or changes that are needed. Think of your higher self making these changes happen for you, pushing you to your greatness. Now, this solar eclipse is happening on February the 17th, and it's happening right at the end of Aquarius at 28 degrees. So, if you have any planets in Aquarius, in the late degrees of Aquarius, especially 28 degrees, 29 degrees, 27 degrees even, this will be much more significant for you than, say, somebody that has early Aquarius. Now, nonetheless, it's still an eclipse in the sign of Aquarius, so everyone that has this zodiac sign will feel the effects of it. But those that have very specific degrees of Aquarius, late degrees of Aquarius, this is going to be really making changes for you. Now, like I said, this is more of a sneak peek and a teaser because it's a minor eclipse in the sense of it's further away. Well, the nodes are further away from this eclipse. The nodes will be in Pisces and Virgo at 8 degrees. And when we get into summer, when the nodes change into the Aquarius and Leo axis and the eclipses after that, they will be much more intenser. So what and how is this going to be impacting your zodiac? So because we're going to have the sun and the moon in Aquarius, that is impacting your first house of identity, of self, of life path and purpose. So it can impact all areas of life. And also relationships, because the first house is opposite the 7th house. And not only is this eclipse pushing for change, but we also have Pluto in Aquarius, and Pluto is going to be in Aquarius for the longest time. So that is also pushing for a change. And this is the month, like as soon as you get into February, we're going to kick off, by the way, with a full moon in Leo, but it's the time to really journal how you're feeling, some of the changes you're feeling, what's going around you, what are you feeling within, because it can support you in this process. And after the next 2 years, and when you look back at your journal and read through these journal entries, life will make more sense. You'll be able to look at yourself from a bird's eye view, from a bird's eye perspective, and understand what the process was like, what the journey was like. So, major life changes happening when it comes to self, identity, purpose, life path, and life direction. Okay, so if you've been wanting some type of change, you've been working through getting to some point of change or trying to transform your life, this could be it, okay? Now, we also have a full moon in Leo happening right at the beginning of the month, February the 1st. And this full moon in Leo is happening at 13 degrees. So take a look at your chart. If you have any planets in Aquarius at 13 degrees or close by, this is going to be more profound for you. And this is impacting relationships as well. So you've got the sun that is going to be in the first house, and then you got the moon that's going to be in the seventh house. So whenever you have a full moon, this shows where balance is due, where there could be some type of ending, a chapter coming to a close, cycle coming to a close, some type of release, some type of transformation, or something coming to its culmination point because it's ready to move into its next phase. So this could impact you, life path, purpose, who you are, identity, and someone significant in your life. It could be a romantic relationship. It could be a marriage. It could be somebody that, like I said, is very significant in your life, okay? And there could be some major transformation or change there. And this is more specific for those that have 13 degrees of Leo in their chart. We also have your ruler, Uranus, going direct on February the 3rd, and it will be going direct in your 4th house of home, family, and your sense of security. Now, you've already gone through this transit for quite some time, and we're really just getting through the last degree so that Uranus can move into the 5th house. So it's just the learning lessons. It's just the last few lessons to really integrate so that we can fulfill this particular life lesson and then move forward. And it is bringing a lot of changes regarding home and security and belonging. Now let's get into some retrograde energy because we've got a Mercury retrograde occurring. So February the 6th, Mercury enters Pisces, and it will enter your 2nd house of self-worth, value, resources, and finances. And then on February the 26th, Mercury goes retrograde in Pisces at 22 degrees. So there's going to be a lot of going back and forth in this area of life, a lot of reevaluating, reassessing, readjusting, re-strategizing. And behind the money, behind the resources is the word self-worth, okay? And because this is in Pisces, there may be a more emotional, sentimental, it may be an emotional and sentimental process that you're going through, that these themes that you're navigating through are also going to make you reflect on how you're feeling, what's coming up for you. And again, journaling can assist quite a lot in this process. Now, you got a lot of 2nd house energy because you're also going to have the sun that will join Mercury, and Venus will join Mercury in the 2nd house. So there's going to be a lot of light, a lot of emphasis, and a lot of navigating through this area of life. And with Venus here and the sun, it's got a lot to do with ego, pride, value, worth. Okay, there may be some thinking going on, some important conversations, communication going on, and it's about going over this area of life so that it can become more clear and it can become more fulfilling as well. Now, another major event happening in February is February the 13th. We've got Saturn entering Aries, which we already had a bit of a taste to, but it will be in a conjunction with Neptune on February the 20th in your 3rd house. Now, Saturn and Neptune are very opposite energies. They rule different things. Saturn is a disciplinary. It's about teaching you hard work, commitment, discipline, structure. It's about reality, having reality checks. And then you got Neptune, which is a daydreamer, which is all about dreaming and fantasizing, and sometimes there can be a lot of illusion and deceit there. But with these energies coming together, this is an awakening. Maybe a rude awakening, maybe a spiritual awakening, or may just be the rose-tinted glasses really coming off and you're able to see everything for what it is. And because it's in the 3rd house, there's a lot of mental energy here. There's a lot of thinking, a lot of reevaluating, a lot of things coming into perspective, seeing things for what they are. There may be a lot of important conversations occurring as well. So it seems like you're going to go through a restructure with how you view the world or your environment, and even just perhaps your life as well. So that's a major event to look forward to. Now, February is coming in with a lot of change and shift for you, Aquarius, okay? Especially with that solar eclipse. It's a teaser, it's a sneak peek, and there's much more to come throughout the year with that eclipse energy in your sign and your opposite sign, Leo. So this may be the month where pivotal changes happen, or at least the seeds are planted during this time, and you may see that unfold throughout the next year and a half to 2 years. So Aquarius, Aquarius rising, wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and I'll speak with you soon. Hi Pisces, Pisces rising. Welcome to your monthly forecast for February 2026, the second month of 2026, and it's a big one. It's a critical month in astrology, and especially for your zodiac, because we have an eclipse occurring this month. We also have Saturn in a conjunction with your ruler, Neptune, which is highly anticipated in astrology, and we have Mercury retrograde kicking off in your sign, Pisces. So it's a big month ahead, and let's get started with February the 1st, where we're going to have a full moon in Leo. So the sun will be in Aquarius in your 12th house, and the moon will be in Leo in your 6th house. And this full moon in Leo is occurring at 13 degrees. So take a look at your chart. If you have any planets in either Leo or Aquarius at 13 degrees or close by, this will be more profound for you. Now, full moons give us an opportunity to release, to heal, to let go of emotions, energies, situations that have been kind of consuming us. And it allows us to also reset. It's a transformation that occurs. A full moon can also bring forth a lot of changes because it's an energy that has reached its culmination point and it's ready to release and then alchemize into something new. For you, it's happening in your 12th and 6th house axis. So this shows that emotionally, with the moon being in Leo, there's a lot of sentiment and attachment and a lot of feelings related to self-care and how you are nurturing yourself, mind, body, soul, and spirit, and your daily life and how it is structured, how it's organized, or how it's perhaps not organized but needs to be organized, and how there needs to be more balance and routine. And also there's a lot of emotions and a lot of attachment and sentiment towards work. So there could be some significant change happening there. And that could be through either you feeling emotionally inspired, or you feel the need to, you're feeling the emotional, intuitive pull to make a shift or change in this area of life. And with the sun in the 12th house, this is shining light on your emotions as well. Also shining light on your sensitivities, your intuition, your creativity, your connection with the universe, the divine, faith. So there's a lot of focus on healing your mind, body, soul, and spirit, and pouring into yourself. And it's very spiritual, and it also has a connection to your daily life routine, wellness, as well as work. So there could be some shift or significant change, especially if you've been working towards that change there. February the 3rd, Uranus, a planet of innovation and change, goes direct. Uranus will go direct in your 3rd house in the sign of Taurus. And this is where it's been retrograding. So now that it's moving forward, there's going to be more clarity regarding your mind and your mental energy, as well as communication and your daily travels and your daily environments you're around. There's going to be much more harmonious flow in this area of life, and Uranus is really preparing to enter your 4th house. So soak it all up, because we're going to be in the next phase of this energy soon. So to make the most out of it, because Uranus in the 3rd house really can give you a lot of stamina, momentum when it comes to ideas, the mind, creativity, and communication, especially if you love to write or speak, or if you like to invent things, especially if it's connected to the mental. Moving on, February the 6th, Mercury enters Pisces into your sign. So this is where communication gets more emotional and more sentimental, and it's more gentle and soft, and how you're thinking as well. You're very much intuitively inspired, and it's great to express your emotions through writing, through some sort of art. But this is going to be very key because when Mercury enters Pisces, it's going to move into a direct motion. But on February the 26th, right at the end of February, Mercury then goes retrograde. And Mercury will go retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces. So take a look at your chart. If you have 22 degrees of Pisces in your chart or close by, this is again going to be more profound for you. So what does this mean? So Mercury retrograde in Pisces is asking us to pause. It's asking us to take time and reflect, to reevaluate, to have a reset. And for you being in the sign of Pisces, your zodiac, a spiritual reset, an emotional reset, an intuitive reset. And it has a lot to do with you and your identity and life path and life direction. And Mercury retrograde happens in Pisces almost every year. I can't remember a time when it wasn't in Pisces. And it's so ironic because the Pisces energy, being a water sign, a mutable water sign, it needs time to reflect. I mean, it does a lot of reflecting anyways, but it needs time to reflect and gather its thoughts and be in that water, the ocean of intuition and the ocean of emotion. So it fits quite well, but it's a reset, and you may learn quite a lot, especially if you're being directly impacted by this retrograde, depending on the degrees in your chart. But overall, it's in the sign of Pisces anyway, so it's going to be impacting the entire zodiac. So this may be a time where you're reflecting on some emotional situations, or you're navigating through your emotions, or even this could be great for communication, creativity as well. If there are some important things you need to let go of or get off your chest or communicate or share or have an outlet for, this can support you in that. And it has to do with, again, you, because it's in the first house. This is the most personal area of your life, so it has to do with you, your identity, and where you're headed in life. So if there's anything that needs to be dealt with, this is a time where that will occur. But it's healthy in a way that, even though a lot of people kind of get really fearful of Mercury retrograde, it's helpful in the sense of it supports you to pause and then look at everything in your life and reevaluate it so that you have a better understanding. And things may not be clear during this process, but that's what this process is all about, is about becoming more clear. It's about having more clarity. It's about being more intentional, okay? February the 10th, Venus enters Pisces as well. So a lot of focus on love, a lot of focus on relationships and what makes you feel good, as well as romance and creativity and sensuality. So this is a time, again, where you can be very romantic. You can also be very creative. So if you're working on any creative projects, or you're a creative at heart, this can be very supportive to help you to let your talents and gifts shine and to really create like an artistic masterpiece as well. Now let's move on to February the 13th. We've got Saturn entering Aries. So Saturn is re-entering Aries in the second house. Neptune is already in your second house. But the big one is going to happen on February the 20th, where we've got a Saturn and Neptune conjunction. So Saturn and Neptune are very opposite energies. Neptune is a dreamer. It's a dreamer. It's very much artistically inspired. It's a romantic, whereas Saturn is the disciplinary. It's like the teacher. It's very strict and very rigid at times, and it's all about structure and reality, and there's no wishful thinking with Saturn. It's all about having 2 feet on the ground, whereas Neptune is daydreaming on a magical cloud, okay? So when these two energies come together, this could be a reality check. This could be a rude awakening. This could be a spiritual awakening of some sort. This could be rose-tinted glasses coming off. This could be a major activation in your life. And for you, it has to do with the second house. And it has a lot to do with you and your value and your self-worth. Now, the second house in astrology is known as the money house. Money manifestation, finances, resources, more so about you rather than what you share with others, which is the eighth house. But this all comes down to self-worth, how worthy you feel, how much you value yourself. And the choices you've been making, because that's Saturn. Saturn kind of shows you, well, these are the choices you've been making, and that's what has happened because of the choices you have made, and these are the consequences, or this is what this has led to. So Saturn will reveal the truth and will show you a lot of things that you need to see and realize and come to an understanding of, okay? But it's about removing those rose-tinted glasses, so this could be a major point of awakening. We also have the sun entering Pisces on February the 18th, so again, shining more light on you, vitality, creativity, your identity, emotions, intuition, spirituality. So this is really going to shine light on that Venus and Mercury energy as well. And then we have the solar eclipse in Aquarius the day before on February the 17th. And this is going to be very interesting because the nodes are still on the Pisces and Virgo axis, but they're slowly moving away and moving into the Aquarius and Leo axis. And this is impacting your 12th house. So the sun and the moon will both be in your 12th house of spirituality, creativity, emotions, sensitivity, intuition, dreams. This is your connection with the divine, the universe. So this is going to be a very spiritual time. Aquarius also focuses on change and mental stimulation, freedom, innovation, because it's ruled by Uranus. So there could be shifts, an awakening happening in your life that is different to any type of other awakening you've had, or perhaps your spiritual beliefs change, or perhaps your intuition during this time starts to get more stronger and activated. There could also be certain situations from the past that come up, but there's almost this new beginning now that you're moving away from that significant past situation, because the 12th house does rule the past, and you're changing the karma of it, and there's this new beginning that also activates in your life. So when the 12th house is really charged and activated, there's also a level of mystery to the 12th house. It's not as straightforward as the other houses in astrology. It's very convoluted, the 12th house, and it can mean many different things, and it can go in any direction. But the deeper meaning here is some sort of spiritual and emotional liberation or change or innovation, activation occurring in your life. And relationships are also very much signified during this solar eclipse, because Venus will be in your sign. And not only is it going to be in your sign, but it's also going to be in a conjunction with the North Node. And that means that there could be also some type of shift or change happening in a relationship. When I see Venus and the North Node together, the North Node is destiny. It's a destiny point. So there could be some type of sacred or spiritual divine alignment that occurs with either you and another person. It can be fated. There could be some karma there to navigate through as well. This could have to do also with a friend. It could be completely platonic, or even when it comes to yourself and self-love, self-acceptance, or this love journey you're on with yourself, or even something creative comes along into your life that is very fated and destined, that shifts also the timeline you're on. So Pisces rising, what a pivotal month ahead for you. This is a month where you will see quite a lot of changes happening in your life. Great time to journal, making notes of what you're going through, what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. That can be very supportive. So I'm wishing you all the best this month. Take care, and I will speak with you soon.